They took everything. My husband, his family. They stripped me of my millions, tossed me aside like refuse, and left me with absolutely nothing. I was a shattered vessel, adrift and homeless, my spirit utterly destroyed. But in their hubris, they made one catastrophic error. They profoundly underestimated me. Now I'm back. Not just back, but I own everything they once claimed as theirs. Let me unravel the intricate tapestry of how I brought their empire of deceit crashing down. This isn't just a tale of betrayal and survival. It's a saga of the sweetest, most satisfying revenge you'll ever hear. If you're a connoisseur of epic comebacks and revel in the sight of villains receiving their just desserts, then smash that subscribe button right now. And if you've ever felt the icy sting of betrayal, drop a comment below, because the story, my friends, is designed to ignite a spark of hope within you. Let's begin. My name is Margot, and at the tender age of 28, I was living what most would unequivocally label a dream life. From the absolute dust of nothing, I had meticulously built a thriving fashion import business. There were no trust funds, no ancestral inheritances, no silver spoons, just raw, unyielding determination fueled by countless sleepless nights and an unshakable belief in myself. My company, a testament to sheer grit, was valued at an astonishing $3.2 million. I owned prime properties, had a portfolio of shrewd investments, and my enterprise was flourishing beyond even my wildest, most audacious dreams. I can vividly recall those quiet moments, gazing at my bank statements, feeling a profound surge of pride, a powerful, almost physical sensation. Asterisk I did this. Asterisk me. A girl who embarked on this journey with nothing more than a $2,000 loan and a beat-up laptop. It was amidst the shimmering chandeliers and polite chatter of a charity gala that I first encountered Brandon. God, he was utterly magnetic. Tall, exquisitely handsome, with a smile that possessed the inexplicable power to illuminate an entire cavernous room. He had this mesmerizing quality, a way of looking at you that made you feel as if you were the singular, most important person in his universe. He presented himself as a visionary businessman, a kindred spirit who intimately understood the arduous struggle of forging something magnificent from the bedrock of nothingness. We talked for hours that night, our voices weaving through the din, sharing dreams, ambitions, and our individual philosophies on what true success genuinely entailed. I fell for him, hard and fast, tumbling head over heels into a whirlwind romance. 8 intoxicating months later, we were married. Everyone in my life, from colleagues to distant acquaintances, cautioned me that it was far too soon, that I was rushing into something potentially precarious. But I, blinded by an overwhelming infatuation, didn't heed their warnings. I was in love, truly, deeply, irrevocably in love, convinced that I had unearthed my soulmate. Brandon embodied everything I believed I desired. Attentive, ceaselessly supportive, always uttering precisely the right words at the opportune moment. He conjured a fantasy world around me, making me believe in fairy tales once more. Following our fairy tale wedding, Brandon seamlessly transitioned into my opulent penthouse. It was then that I properly met his family. His mother, Patricia, was a woman carved from granite, stern, with eyes like chips of glacial ice that never quite softened into a genuine smile, even when her lips politely curved. His brother, Kyle, exuded an air of inherited entitlement, his conversations invariably revolving around money, power, and fleeting opportunities. And then there was Nicole, his sister, superficially sweet, almost saccharine. But beneath that veneer lurked a calculating sharpness in the way she observed people, dissecting their vulnerabilities. Yet, I, eager to embrace my new family, consciously brushed aside my creeping discomfort. They're my family now, I rationalized. Asterisk and family means unconditional acceptance, right? Roughly 3 months into our marriage, over an intimate dinner, Brandon initiated a conversation that would, unbeknownst to me, irrevocably alter the course of my entire existence. He reached across the polished table, his fingers intertwining with mine, his gaze soft and earnest. Margot, my love, I've been doing a lot of thinking. He began, his voice a gentle murmur. We're married now, building a life, a future together. Don't you agree it only makes absolute sense for us to combine our assets? It's what married couples do, darling. It's simply logical. A cold, insidious knot tightened in my gut, a primal alarm bell screaming within me. I hesitated, my intuition warring with his charm. Sensing my apprehension, his expression subtly shifted, morphing into one of wounded bewilderment. Don't you trust me, Margot? We are one now, aren't we? What's mine is yours. What's yours is mine. Isn't that the very essence of marriage? He wove his words with such masterful skill, making his request sound utterly reasonable, profoundly loving, and entirely beyond reproach. He skillfully manipulated me, making me feel shamefully guilty for even contemplating a moment of doubt. So I capitulated. I signed the documents. I transferred my properties into joint names. I added him to every single one of my business accounts. I granted him unfettered access to everything I had painstakingly built from the ground up. Every single penny, every single brick, every single dream I had worked for, I handed it over, freely, unreservedly. Because I trusted him, because I loved him, because I genuinely believed we were partners, equals embarking on a shared destiny. Looking back now, with the searing clarity of hindsight, I can pinpoint the precise, almost imperceptible moment his meticulously crafted mask began to fray, then shatter. It was subtle at first, almost imperceptible. The ink on those papers had barely dried when, quite coincidentally, his family suddenly found themselves in dire need of a temporary residence. Just for a little while, my love, Brandon assured me, his voice a soothing balm. A brief, passing inconvenience. They moved into my penthouse, the luxurious sanctuary I had purchased with my own hard-earned money. That temporary stay, of course, never ended. 6 agonizing months into my marriage, my entire life spiraled into a living, breathing nightmare. Brandon transformed overnight, shedding his loving facade like a snake sheds its skin. The attentive, affectionate husband vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating stranger whose eyes held nothing but raw contempt when he looked at me. His family, emboldened by their presence, took over my home like an invading army claiming conquered territory. Patricia, a tyrannical matriarch, would bark orders at me as if I were her personal servant. Margot, fetch me tea. Margot, clean up this mess. You're utterly useless anyway. Might as well make yourself helpful. Kyle, with his insufferable arrogance, literally changed the locks on my own office, the nerve, my sanctuary. He began systematically running my flourishing business into the ground with his idiotic, short-sighted decisions. And when I dared to protest, to voice even a whisper of dissent, Brandon's grip would tighten on my arm, hard enough to leave angry, purple bruises blooming on my skin. Everything is in my name now. He hissed at me one frigid night, his face contorted into a sneer. You're nothing. You have nothing. So shut up and be grateful we even allow you to breathe our air. Nicole, a viper in designer clothing, would parade around in my cherished jewelry, drive my luxury cars, and flaunt my bespoke designer outfits. She would do it with a chillingly sweet smile, a cruel, knowing smirk that declared she understood precisely the game they were playing, and there was absolutely nothing I could do to stop it. The abuse, both emotional and physical, escalated with terrifying speed. Patricia, in a fit of pique, once threw a scalding cup of tea directly onto my arm because, she claimed, I hadn't made it sweet enough. The agonizing burn lingered for weeks, a constant, fiery reminder of their cruelty. Kyle, with a disturbing gleam in his eyes, deliberately destroyed my most treasured personal belongings, irreplaceable photos of my deceased parents, childhood mementos, fragments of a past that could never be reclaimed. He did it laughing, a chilling, guttural sound. Brandon, the man who once pledged to love and protect me, watched it all unfold, impassive. Worse than doing nothing, he actively participated, reveling in my torment. One night, driven by a desperate, gnawing suspicion, I stealthily searched Brandon's study. My hands trembled, clammy with dread, as I unearthed a hidden stack of documents. I devoured them, my eyes scanning line after horrifying line. It was all laid out there, starkly, unequivocally, in black and white. Asterisk, this had been planned from the very beginning. Asterisk, Brandon had never loved me. His family, a syndicate of predators, had perfected this despicable scheme before. They targeted successful, single women, romanced them into a false sense of security, married them, systematically stole every last asset, and then vanished without a trace, leaving a trail of broken lives in their wake. I was merely another mark, another naive victim in their disgustingly intricate web of deceit. I confronted Brandon, the incriminating papers clutched in my shaking hands. His charm evaporated, replaced by a raw, unadulterated fury. That's when he hit me, really hit me. A brutal, open-handed slap across my face so forceful I saw a kaleidoscope of dizzying stars. "You stupid, pathetic woman," he spat, his voice laced with venom. "Did you honestly believe someone like me could ever love someone like you? You were nothing more than a wealthy, gullible fool who fell for a pretty face. We took everything, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You're done." They held me captive in that house for another 2 agonizing months. Each day a fresh hell, systematically breaking me down, piece by agonizing piece. Then, one bleak morning, Brandon flung a battered suitcase at my feet. "Get out," he snarled, his eyes devoid of any human emotion. "We're finished with you." He immediately filed for divorce. His expensive, ruthless lawyers, paid with my own stolen money, painted me as mentally unstable, an irrational woman who had abandoned her marriage. They fabricated a tapestry of lies, forged documents, and spun a narrative of my supposed instability. Stripped of every resource, every penny, I had no means, no fight left to mount a defense. The divorce sailed through the courts with brutal efficiency. They kept everything: my business, my properties, my cars, my cherished jewelry, my meticulously built investments. Everything I had dedicated years of my life to building was gone, obliterated. Brandon's smug lawyer, his face a mask of condescension, handed me a paltry $500 as I walked out of the courthouse, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "For your troubles, darling," he drawled. "Now vanish." I stood on the bustling street, a lone figure with a single, battered suitcase, a measly $500, and absolutely nothing else. I was utterly alone, adrift. Brandon had meticulously isolated me from every friend, every family member during our marriage, severing all my connections. I had nowhere to go, no one to turn to. That night, I huddled on a cold park bench, the city lights blurring through my tears, seriously contemplating the unthinkable, walking into oncoming traffic, simply ending it all. What was the point? They had stolen my very essence, my future, my identity. I was broken, irrevocably destroyed, with no conceivable path back. But then, a faint flicker of memory pierced through the suffocating darkness. Aunt Clara. She was my late mother's sister, a warm, distant figure I hadn't seen in years, swallowed by the relentless demands of my burgeoning business. She lived in a different city with her husband, George. With my last precious bit of money, I purchased a bus ticket, clutching onto that fragile thread of hope. When I appeared at her doorstep, a sobbing, broken mess, Aunt Clara didn't utter a single question. She simply enveloped me in her strong, comforting arms and held me close as I wept, torrents of grief pouring out. "You're safe now, child," she whispered, her voice a balm to my shattered soul. "You're safe." She and Uncle George, bless their compassionate hearts, welcomed me into their spare room. They ran a modest textile business, nothing extravagant, just enough to live comfortably and honestly. They never judged me. They never uttered a single word about my perceived foolishness for trusting Brandon. Instead, they offered me an invaluable gift, the quiet, hallowed space to heal. I cried for weeks, raw and untamed grief consuming me. Some days, the weight of despair was so immense I couldn't even force myself out of bed. But Aunt Clara, a beacon of unwavering strength, would sit beside me, gently stroking my hair, regaling me with cherished stories about my mother. She was the strongest woman I knew, Margot. Clara would often say, her eyes twinkling, and that same formidable strength lives in you. They took your money, yes, but not your brilliant mind. They took your possessions, but never your indomitable spirit. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, I began to crawl back to life. Uncle George, with his gentle wisdom, offered me work in their textile shop. "Start from the bottom, Margot," he said kindly, his eyes full of understanding. "Learn, rebuild, remember who you truly are." So I did. I cut fabric, meticulously managed supplies, and patiently dealt with customers. I worked grueling 16-hour days, every fiber of my being dedicated to saving every single penny. With a new $2,000 loan, this time from Aunt Clara, money that felt clean and honest, I launched a small online boutique from their humble basement. I applied every lesson, every hard-won insight from my previous business. But this time, I was smarter, infinitely more careful, unequivocally more strategic. I focused on unique, ethically sourced designs, pouring my heart and soul into every stitch. The business grew agonizingly slowly at first, but it grew. 1 year later, my nascent venture generated $50,000 in revenue. 2 years after that, $500,000. 3 years later, a staggering $5 million. 5 years to the day after Brandon callously threw me out onto the street, I had meticulously built Ethereal Lux Holdings, a colossal fashion and lifestyle empire valued at over $200 million. This time, I guarded my identity with fervent secrecy, operating discreetly through a trusted network of board members and corporate lawyers. In the hushed corridors of the business world, they whispered about me, calling me the Silent Empress, a mysterious, enigmatic figure who had forged an empire from the crucible of nothingness, yet never revealed her face. I relished that anonymity. It was power, a shield, and a strategic advantage. My burgeoning company began a calculated acquisition spree, targeting struggling businesses with untapped potential. It was during one of these reviews that my team presented me with a particularly interesting opportunity. A company named Prestige Solutions was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. I almost dismissed it, ready to move on, until I saw the name of their operations director, Brandon Hayes. My heart, which I thought had long since healed, momentarily seized in my chest. I dug deeper, cold fury simmering beneath my calm exterior. Brandon had, in his sheer incompetence and insatiable greed, run my original business into the ground within 3 short years. Everything I had poured my life into, he had systematically destroyed. Now he was working for someone else, earning a decent, unremarkable salary, while Prestige Solutions was drowning in a sea of debt. I also uncovered his connections to another failing entity, Apex Industries. The irony, bitter and delicious, was almost too exquisite to bear. Without a moment's hesitation, I bought both companies, anonymously, through a labyrinth of shell corporations. Just like that, in a silent surgical strike, I became Brandon's boss. And he, utterly oblivious, had no idea. Around this pivotal time, I attended an international business summit in the glittering city of Dubai. It was there that I encountered Julian Sterling. He was a self-made billionaire, his empire valued at an estimated $1.8 billion, forged in the dynamic realms of tech and real estate. But what truly captivated me about Julian wasn't his vast wealth. It was the way his eyes held mine when we were introduced. "The Silent Empress herself," he said, his voice imbued with genuine respect, a rare commodity in that cutthroat world. "I've been wanting to meet you." We talked for hours, our conversation flowing effortlessly. He knew my story, not the dark chapter with Brandon, but the epic odyssey of my business journey. He respected my intellect, my strategic prowess, my unwavering strength. There was no pretense, no manipulative games, just an authentic, profound conversation between two individuals who intimately understood the true meaning of building an empire from the very genesis of nothing. Julian courted me with meticulous care for an entire year. He would cross continents, flying thousands of miles simply to share a quiet dinner with me. He sent thoughtful, insightful gifts, rare books he believed would resonate with my mind, unique pieces of art from his global travels, meticulously curated notes about business deals he thought I might find intellectually stimulating. When he finally proposed on his yacht, bathed in the breathtaking hues of a sunset over the ocean, he uttered words I will forever carry in my heart. Build an empire with me, Margot, not for me. We married in an intimate, deeply personal ceremony. I, ever cautious, insisted on a prenup that meticulously protected both our assets equally. Julian not only agreed but respected me even more for my foresight. This, I realized, was what true partnership looked like. This was the authentic face of love. Not Brandon's insidious manipulation and theft, but Julian's genuine respect, unwavering support, and profound understanding. Life, it seemed, was finally perfect. I had rebuilt everything I had lost and so much more. I had a husband who was, in every sense of the word, my true partner. Aunt Clara and Uncle George, my saviors, were living comfortably, retired early thanks to my success, enjoying a life of ease. I should have been completely, utterly happy. Then the invitation arrived. It came addressed to Aunt Clara's old home, the only address Brandon still had for me. She forwarded it with a small, handwritten note. Asterisk, are you sure you want to see this, child? Asterisk, my hands trembled as I carefully opened the expensive envelope, the heavy cardstock feeling oddly ominous. Brandon was marrying someone named Cassandra, a doctor. The wedding was slated for a lavish luxury hotel, but it was the personal note tucked inside that truly made my blood boil, igniting a dormant fury within me. Margot, I sincerely hope you found some measure of peace in your simple life. Come celebrate my new beginning with someone who truly deserves me. No hard feelings, Brandon. The sheer audacity, the absolute, unadulterated audacity of this man, this predator. Aunt Clara, seeing the dangerous glint in my eyes, gently took the invitation from my grasp. Don't go, Margot. He doesn't deserve to see you. Let the past stay buried, darling. But Julian, ever perceptive, disagreed. He read the contemptuous note, then looked at me, a knowing, almost mischievous smile gracing his lips. Let's go, he said simply, his voice firm yet comforting. Let's end this chapter properly, Margot. Let's show him exactly what he lost, and precisely what you became. I agonized over the decision for days. A part of me, the part that craved peace, yearned to simply ignore it, to allow Brandon to wallow in his ignorance, blissfully unaware of my resurgence. But another, more primal part of me, the part that had been brutally thrown out onto the street, beaten, humiliated, robbed of everything, that part screamed for justice. That part demanded he know. So, with a deep breath, I RSVP'd. Mrs. Margot Sterling. The day of the wedding arrived, steeped in an almost theatrical tension. I chose a champagne silk gown, exquisitely tailored, that shimmered with an understated elegance. A gown that, I knew, cost more than Brandon's annual salary. My jewelry was not costume paste, but authentic, flawless diamonds that caught and refracted every sliver of light with dazzling brilliance. Julian, a vision of refined power, wore a custom-tailored Italian suit. Together, we embodied precisely what we were: powerful, unequivocally successful, and utterly untouchable. We swept into that opulent hotel ballroom like royalty entering their court. Heads turned. Whispers rippled through the gathered guests. Who are they? I overheard someone murmur, hushed and awestruck. The venue itself was breathtaking. Brandon had clearly spared no expense, pouring a fortune into this wedding money, I mused, he likely didn't even possess. Knowing him, it was all on credit. We found discreet seats, and I began my silent observation. His family was there, just as I'd anticipated. Patricia, draped in what appeared to be expensive jewelry, but which I now knew, with a morbid certainty, were likely costume pieces, their luster faded. Kyle looked noticeably less confident than I remembered, softer around the edges, as if life had finally started to extract its price. Nicole, once the sweet facade, seemed tired, worn down by the weight of their own making. They hadn't noticed me yet, lost in their petty self-importance. The ceremony commenced. Brandon stood at the altar, a picture of smug self-satisfaction, like a man who had flawlessly executed the perfect crime. His bride, Cassandra, appeared genuinely sweet, genuinely happy, and a pang of genuine pity pierced my heart for her. She was utterly oblivious to the viper she was about to marry. Then, right in the middle of his solemn vows, Brandon's gaze swept across the room and collided with mine. His eyes went wide, his face instantly draining of all color, transforming into a mask of pure terror. He stammered, his voice a choked gasp. I do, he managed to croak out, but his eyes, transfixed, couldn't tear away from me. Patricia, ever vigilant, noticed his distraction and began whispering frantically to Kyle. The ceremony lurched forward, but the air in the room had irrevocably shifted. Brandon, his confidence visibly crumbling, kept glancing back at me, a nervous tick. During the cocktail hour, Brandon, unable to resist the pull of his own arrogance and perhaps a touch of morbid curiosity, approached me. His voice, though laced with an attempt at contempt, betrayed the undeniable fear swirling in his eyes. "Margot, what in God's name are you doing here?" I simply smiled, calm, collected, brimming with an unyielding power. "Congratulating you, Brandon. A truly lovely wedding." Then, I elegantly gestured to Julian, who stood serenely beside me. "This is my husband, Julian Sterling." I watched, mesmerized, as the pieces clicked into place in Brandon's mind. His jaw literally dropped, hanging agape in disbelief. "Sterling? The Julian Sterling?" His voice cracked, brittle with dawning horror. Suddenly, as if on cue, his entire family descended upon us, having recognized Julian from the covers of countless business magazines. Patricia's entire demeanor underwent an instantaneous, sickening transformation. "Margot, darling, you look absolutely radiant. We've missed you so much." Kyle, nodding eagerly, chimed in. "Yes, we often think about you, honestly." Nicole, ever the disingenuous one, actually tried to touch my arm. "It's so good to see you, truly." I looked at each of them, my eyes like chips of glacial ice, devoid of warmth or forgiveness. "I'm sure you have," I said flatly, my voice cutting through their sycophantic lies. Their fake smiles wavered, dissolving into an uneasy silence. Then, the best man's voice boomed over the microphone, calling for everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special announcement from the leadership of Prestige Solutions. Our parent company's CEO is here tonight to celebrate with us." Brandon's face lit up with an almost childlike glee. He actually looked proud, excited to finally meet his mysterious, unseen boss. The company's VP took the microphone, his voice resonating through the ballroom. "Please join me in extending a warm welcome to the CEO of Ethereal Lux Holdings, the visionary who acquired our company last year and saved us from the brink of bankruptcy." The spotlight, as if guided by an invisible hand, swung slowly, dramatically, to me. I rose, deliberately, feeling the searing intensity of every single eye in the room fixed on my form. I walked towards the stage, the silence so profound you could have heard a pin drop. "Hello, everyone," I said, my voice clear and resonating with an undeniable authority. "I'm Margot Sterling, CEO of Ethereal Lux Holdings." I paused, allowing the weight of my words to settle, watching Brandon's face contort into a mask of abject horror. "And I also own Apex Industries, the company Brandon here used to own before he so competently ran it into the ground." Gasps, loud and collective, erupted throughout the room. Patricia, unable to bear the shock, actually fainted, collapsing dramatically right there on the pristine marble floor. Kyle, a desperate glint in his eyes, made a frantic dash for the exit, only to be firmly intercepted by two of Julian's discreetly positioned security personnel. Nicole burst into uncontrollable tears, her sweet facade completely shattered. But I wasn't finished. "Brandon," I said, my voice growing stronger, imbued with the power of years of silent suffering and triumph. "Do you remember what you told me when you threw me out? You said I was nothing. You took $3. $2 million from me. I built $200 million. You stole my company. I bought yours. You threw me out onto the street. Now I am your boss. I turned to address the stunned room, my gaze sweeping across the bewildered faces. Some of you in this room work for companies I own, and you don't even realize it. Then, I fixed my gaze back on Brandon, my voice ringing with finality. Brandon, you're fired. Effective immediately. I then addressed his crumpled family. Patricia, Kyle, Nicole, there's a comprehensive fraud investigation commencing Monday morning. I possess irrefutable evidence of everything. Every forged signature, every illegal transfer, every deceitful lie you ever uttered. Julian, calm and commanding, stepped up beside me, a pillar of unwavering support. My legal team has been meticulously preparing for months, he added, his voice a low, steady rumble. We have 5 other victims ready to testify. Your family's little scheme, Mr. Hayes, is definitively over. Security swiftly escorted Brandon's family out, their screams and futile protests echoing through the disarrayed ballroom. Brandon, tears streaming down his face, lunged towards me, a pathetic figure. Margot, please, we can talk about this. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Please. I looked at him, truly looked at him. This man, this monstrous individual who had systematically destroyed me, stolen everything I held dear, and painstakingly made me believe I was utterly worthless. Now he was reduced to begging. You had your chance to talk, Brandon, I stated, my voice devoid of emotion. You chose to steal instead. You chose cruelty instead. Now live with the consequences of those choices. His new bride, Cassandra, approached me, her face streaked with tears, a picture of devastation. I didn't know, she whispered, her voice raw with anguish. I swear I didn't know what he did to you. My anger, witnessing her genuine distress, softened slightly. She was an unwitting pawn, innocent in his scheme. I know you didn't, I said gently, my voice laced with a genuine warning. Leave him, Cassandra. Trust me. He will do to you exactly what he did to me. The wedding dissolved into absolute pandemonium. Most of the guests, their eyes opened, unequivocally sided with me. Apparently, Brandon's unsavory reputation in the business community was already hanging by a thread. By the very next morning, the media had seized upon the story with ravenous zeal. Silent Empress exposes wedding fraud scheme. Blared headlines trending across every platform, every news outlet. Within a week, criminal charges were formally filed. Brandon, Patricia, and Kyle were arrested for fraud, forgery, theft, and conspiracy. Their ill-gotten assets were immediately frozen. They faced the grim prospect of 10 to 15 years in federal prison, each. Through the subsequent legal proceedings, we uncovered the shocking truth. They had indeed conned 5 other unsuspecting women using precisely the same vile scheme they had employed against me. All those courageous victims came forward, and together, we built an ironclad case. Through the relentless pursuit of justice, I successfully recovered my original $3. $2 million through the courts. But I didn't keep a single penny of it. I donated every last cent to women's shelters and organizations dedicated to helping abuse victims rebuild their shattered lives. I don't need their dirty money anymore, I told Julian, a sense of profound liberation washing over me. But someone else out there might desperately need hope. 6 months later, Brandon was sentenced to a lengthy 12 years in prison. His family received similar, fitting sentences. Their entire empire of lies, built on a foundation of deceit and suffering, had been exposed, dismantled, and utterly crushed. Cassandra, making a swift, wise decision, divorced him before the trial even concluded and personally thanked me for saving her from a terrible mistake. My company, Ethereal Lux Holdings, continued its stratospheric rise, thriving beyond measure. Aunt Clara and Uncle George retired to a beautiful, serene home by the beach, a gift from me, a token of my unending gratitude for saving my very life. Julian and I are now joyously expecting our first child, a daughter. We're going to name her Clara. After the woman who, in my darkest hour, taught me that family isn't merely about blood. It's about who shows up, steadfast and true, when you have absolutely nothing left. I think about Brandon sometimes, not with anger anymore, but with a quiet, almost serene pity. He had everything. A successful, loving wife, a burgeoning business, a genuine chance at happiness. And he systematically destroyed it all, consumed by his own insatiable greed. Meanwhile, I lost everything, only to rise from the ashes and build something immeasurably bigger, more powerful, more meaningful. There's a profound quote I now keep etched on a plaque on my desk. They tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. That, my friends, is precisely what happened. Brandon and his family truly believed they had utterly destroyed me. They thought they had seized everything that truly mattered. But they only took things, money, property, possessions. They couldn't touch my mind. They couldn't extinguish my fierce determination. They couldn't steal the unyielding core of who I am. The best revenge isn't simply success. It's standing tall, unequivocally showing them that they never truly broke you. It's proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that you are stronger than their cruelty, larger than their hate, more powerful than their worst, most malicious intentions. It's standing so completely, so authentically in your own truth, that their lies can no longer even graze you. I didn't just survive what Brandon did to me, I conquered it. I meticulously transformed my pain into undeniable power, my profound loss into an enduring legacy. And honestly, I should probably even thank him, because being thrown into the raging fire taught me, definitively, that I was fireproof. Being torn down, brick by painful brick, taught me how to construct unbreakable foundations. Losing everything, absolutely everything, taught me what truly, profoundly matters in this fleeting life. So, to anyone out there who has been betrayed, stolen from, or utterly broken down, hear me now. Your story isn't over. This isn't your ending. This, my warriors, is merely your beginning. The comeback is always stronger than the setback. Always. Never, ever let anyone steal your light. If this story resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within your soul, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful comeback stories. Comment below, I am unstoppable. Say it, believe it, become it. Share this with someone who desperately needs to hear that their story isn't over. Remember, your comeback will always be stronger than your setback. See you in the next one, warriors.